right now?
I am. I'm coming to you from Livermore, California. That's in the San Francisco Bay Area,
Nice.
other side of the country. Um,
Yeah, and the weather must be pretty nice at this time of year, right?
it is. It is. I was in Washington, D.C. just last week, and I mean, I couldn't complain either. D.C. had great weather when I visited. It was absolutely amazing and such a nice city. How about you? Are you in
Yeah,
Toronto or
I
D.C.?
am in Toronto right now. Yeah.
Toronto. Gotcha.
So feeling the full effects of the winter.
I bet.
Yeah, yeah. No, California, yeah, I don't think you can beat the weather in California, that's for sure.
Yeah, we've been blessed.
Yeah, pretty nice. Um, yeah, cool. Um, Still got a couple minutes, I guess, before we get started. Um, yeah. So how's UC Davis? Like good school, good program, good campus and stuff like that, or
Beautiful campus. Absolutely. If you ever get a chance to come out, it's a lot of fun. It's a great school, and I'll talk about it just a little bit about some of the things we're doing
yeah.
in the ecosystem of quantum computing. So that'll come later on, but there's a lot happening, that's for sure. And yeah, we're definitely privileged to be in Northern California, and like you said, great
Yeah,
weather, so great living. It's a college town, which is awesome.
right.
So it's yeah, definitely a great time.
Yeah, it's right beside Sacramento.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool spot. Yeah, that's pretty
All
cool.
right.
Um, yeah, somebody is currently joining the meeting room as an avatar. I don't know if you guys are seeing that right now. That's crazy.
Hi,
Oh, hey Helen, how are you doing?
good.
Good. Um, yeah, it's Monday night, so I don't want to keep everyone for too long. So I think we're good to get started. What do you think, Helen? Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, cool. Yeah, hey everybody, welcome to another session, another meetup hosted by the Quantum Computing and Data Science in conjunction with Quantum Computing Meetup Group. Oh, recording is, yep. Today we have Tim Link um, to chat with us today. A little bit of background. He did his bachelor and master's at the Technical University of Munich. Um, did his MS and his currently PhD at the UC Davis, one of the University of California systems. Um, and he is the president and advisor at QC at Davis, which I assume is his current wallpaper background right now, and he will go into that in more detail in this talk. And currently, he's a doctoral fellow at the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory. The talk today will present recent successes of providing access to quantum information science for a fast-growing audience. Its integration into an educational settings are outlined, and its future implications are discussed today. So, yeah, without further ado, Tim Link.
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and share my slides. Just to confirm you're seeing my slides.
Yeah, yeah, we can see yourself.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, so thanks so much for the great introduction and for the invitation to come speak to you today. I'm speaking on behalf of the entire student group, the Quantum Computing at Davis group. I served as president, and yeah, we had some, I think, amazing results over the last couple of months that are of interest not only to Davis, but to many others who are trying to get into the quantum computing education realm. So to start off, today's been quite the day in quantum computing. IBM Quantum Summit is in full swing. And not only because the Washington, D.C. Toronto meetup is happening, but also because these new announcements have been coming up. So IBM has announced a new QPU, new Qiskit release, Qiskit patterns, some of what I want to discuss a little bit later on. But also the Unitary Fund has published 2023 results on a survey that they conducted based on the quantum computing ecosystem across the US and the world. And I think these results really go to show into what the environment is like today and how we can advance it, especially through education. So I'd like to take a little bit of a deeper dive into those results just hot off the press today and see how they apply to all of us trying to get into the field. So to start off, one of the main things the survey shows is that quantum computing roles today are dominated by experts. We can see that many of them come from academic institutions, almost half, and then industry and startups are represented as well. But when we look at the degrees that that the people have who are elaborated in the field, they're almost always PhDs, masters, some sort of higher education, with really bachelors in high schools getting into those lower percentages. And so the question is, how can we connect? How can we connect the field that we have in quantum computing with the workforce that we really want? So how do we get to that quantum ready workforce that's oftentimes considered? So let's look at industry first. And the survey was conducted back in 2020 here, asking various startups and various players in the industry to see what would they like from a quantum ready workforce to sort of get a better definition of what exactly that entails. And the number one thing that everybody said was coding. 90% of companies said we need people to be able to code. We need people to be comfortable with different software development tools. Then came statistical methods, some hand-on experiences at 81%, hardware knowledge at 76%. Of course, in our current time, that's incredibly important. But more general skills like troubleshooting were also very desired. And so this desire from industry really trends towards these more applied skills that we see. On the other hand, what is it that students are looking for? This is a survey that was conducted by a class taught on quantum computing, and students were asked how relevant or how interested different features within the class were to them. And here also it shows that students really desire the hands-on skills, such as writing quantum code, really understanding, okay, how is it different? While the more fundamental things like the computational, mathematical, or even theoretical nature of the topic took a secondary priority to these students. This is true before they took the class, but also after, as we can see here with the difference. So current education tries to tackle this, right? It tries to bridge between what students are desiring and what industry really needs in order to make that gap. And so the common university environment that we see today consists of a research lab, some quantum computing coursework, and maybe something beyond that, like a quantum journal club and so on. So this is great, right? Because quantum computing coursework teaches us the fundamentals in physics, computer science, and so on. However, today they're oftentimes restricted to graduate levels based on the fact that quantum computing requires quantum physics as a starter, et cetera. So you need all these prerequisites to get into it as you move on. Research labs require prior knowledge to really gain some productive results. And then journal clubs are just often not as accessible to newcomers like undergraduate students when it comes to discussing the most recent results, et cetera. So looking back at what students really want out of the university ecosystem, we definitely see that we cover this fundamental nature of the topics. We cover the computational nature, mathematical nature, and the theoretical aspects of it. But when it comes to more applied work, it's a pretty high barrier to get in. So, writing code and getting hands-on experience is not as easy through the existing ecosystem. And so this is where we believe that student groups really provide a unique opportunity to everyone involved. Student groups are not directly affiliated with neither a lab, nor courses, nor say a department, but more a venue for people to come and come together and join on common projects to really build on their coding expertise, to gain that hands-on experience that industry so seeks, be it on quantum algorithm implementations or others. So this, of course, comes with skills like troubleshooting that you wouldn't necessarily get in a course environment. It also provides a low risk basis for these collaborations to happen. Something that you don't necessarily have to commit a certain number of hours to every week, like you would in a research position in a lab, etc. So this is really a unique system and a unique opportunity for student groups to thrive. And at UC Davis, this system has shown great success. And I'll only leave you with these headlines here, but if you're interested, I'm happy to take questions later on how through this student group setup, collaborating with different professors and the journal club and the coursework, we've created this pipeline almost of students coming into the field, knowing not a lot, to then being able to go into be it graduate school or even industry at an early point. So with this environment in place, with this setup, what we're really interested in is to now answer the question, how do we gain that expertise from someone who knows nothing about quantum computing to somebody who is able to then go on and actually do research? And we took a little bit of history from that and used gamification as an educational tool for everybody. And I'd like to draw the example from Microsoft back in 1997, where they created Solitaire to teach the fundamentals of using a computer mouse. So dragging and dropping different cards in order to make it easier for users to get accustomed to this new way of interacting with the machine. And so just as back then games were used to teach a new skill, we thought maybe we could do the same thing. We could use games as well for us to be able to teach these fundamental concepts in quantum computing. And so that's exactly what we set out to do. In collaboration with UCLA and UC Berkeley, we created a quantum computing hackathon that went on for 3 days, where our main goal was to build a quantum game with everybody involved that would let people who know nothing about quantum computing at least gain some initial insights. And there was a total of 4 games created, but the ones I'd like to highlight today are 2, Blackjack and Quangry Cats. Now, these really do teach the fundamentals quite well. And in order for them to be successful, we decided to really focus on the non-intuitive aspects that many people struggle with when first encountering quantum computing, be it superposition or entanglement or the uncertainty principle. I mean, things scientists of the likes of Albert Einstein struggled with. And so these 2 games are, on the one hand, like Blackjack here, taken the principles of superposition and entanglement in order for you to leverage these ideas from quantum computing to beat the classical game, to beat a classical dealer for you as a quantum player. While Quangry Cats gives you a choice of whether to pinpoint your position or your angle of firing to get the certain uncertainty principle across and get a little bit more of a feel of what chance and probability is like. I'm happy to showcase these games later on if that's of interest, but I'll leave that for later. So these games were, number one, a great learning for everybody involved, because you really need to get a good grasp of these concepts in order to implement them into a game. But also, they were a great success for people who had never heard of it. So we field tested these, and it resulted in really large interest. We were able to showcase our game at an exhibit within UC Davis, and it drew more than 200 players within a couple of hours. And what really started off as curious conversations of people coming up led to more detailed conversations in quantum physics, and how now this Blackjack game all of a sudden translates to something that you would find in quantum computing. And we really noticed that these conversations fostered people's interest, and also saw a rise in numbers in our quantum computing club. This game won first place, or this exhibit won first place in the Exploring Advancements in Science and Technology. And the games were also presented in greater detail later on at a quantum research symposium, again, enhancing that educational experience for everybody involved. So to conclude, these student groups, I believe, are absolutely essential to construct that quantum ready workforce and get us ready. Gamification, along with that, is an absolutely viable option to lower the entry barrier into quantum computing for people who've never heard of it. And these non-intuitive concepts like superposition, entanglement, etc., can be explained way more easily and get a much better grasp on it. And what I like the most is that these concepts are definitely extendable beyond universities. So IBM, for example, created a board game meant for 8th graders called Entanglion that teaches a 2-qubit system based on a game. And to wrap things up, let me go back to what IBM announced today with what they are presenting, with what they are going into. They're really opening this field up, or they're aiming to open this field up for multidisciplinary researchers. So going beyond universities and high school, even into the professional work, where they quote, say, our research has shown that researchers want quantum computers to offer performance capable enough to advance their fields so that they need not learn quantum physics just to solve their hard computational problems. So as they aim to open up this field into people who may not be experienced in quantum physics, I also believe that these games can be a great way for people to do it on the job, for people to learn these quantum computing principles in their free time. And with that, I'd like to thank you. Questions and comments are encouraged. And again, this is the work of a big team and everybody involved. Great thanks to them. And I'll take any questions and would be happy to showcase the games and go into further detail as well there if we have some interest.
Yeah, this is wonderful. And I am wondering if I can reverse the situation here. And is it possible to, I mean, how easy will it be to write a code, a Qiskit code or whatever, to play a game?
So to develop a game that will then teach you how to code in Qiskit? Am I understanding your question correctly?
This is one thing, but
Yeah.
the other thing is just, can you see a simple code on quantum computer that can play a simple game like TikTok or whatever?
Absolutely, yes. And I believe it's a great way to get a better intuition for some of these principles. So say you wrote a Qiskit backend to get your probabilities, whether you've got a circle or a cross as your tic-tac-toe field, like you had mentioned, that is definitely feasible. And I believe a great exercise that will give a much better understanding to these concepts. And that's exactly what we saw as well when most of these people played our games who had never seen it before. We really saw a really quick understanding of these principles, and maybe instead of seeing it as an applied linear algebra when you talk about superposition, rather it was a concept all of a sudden where they saw two separate cards and were able to imagine it a lot better. So by making that additional connection to something that you would encounter in everyday life, we saw really good results. And I believe that's exactly what you're mentioning too with tic-tac-toe and an implementation project like that.
Can I be a better chess player by writing a code for quantum computer?
A quantum chess would definitely be an interesting project. I believe to be pretty elaborate. I like the idea. I'd be open to chat about it.
Or a poker player that is using a little quantum computer on their watch, very futuristic, and can beat the opponents because they don't have the quantum computer on their wristwatch.
Absolutely, yeah. We had countless ideas at the hackathon, and we really had to limit it down to the biggest ones like blackjack or Angry Birds, the quantum version of it. But there's so many great ideas, I believe, and great implementation projects to do, and I'd be happy to talk with you more about it and even put you in touch with some of our members who would be happy to implement.
Cool. Yeah, well, moving on. I think somebody asked in the YouTube live or something if there are any computer science courses about quantum computing in UC Davis.
Absolutely. So within UC Davis, we have two tracks where quantum computing is coming together on the coursework side. One is from electrical engineering, which has a great introductory course for undergraduate students, where quantum computing principles are taught based on Mike and Ike, so the classic textbook, right? That's an absolutely excellent course that I highly encourage anybody to take. That has an advanced graduate course as well, where it's more based on hardware and how that plays a bigger role. And then also from the computer science side, there is a graduate course on quantum complexity theory. And I believe there's also an undergraduate version being introduced soon, if it hasn't been introduced already.
Good stuff. I think it's a great idea, Tim, because I think there is a pretty large barrier to entry in the quantum computing space right now, as it is highly academic, like you said. The games would definitely help to understand the concepts and put it to a practical example and stuff like that. Do you have like a website or like a link to to all the games, or is it just like accessible through the GitHub links that you posted there?
So absolutely. So the blackjack game is on my GitHub, and you're welcome to use it and play it. I can showcase it, but the Quangry Cats is one that is playable off of the browser. So why don't I put the link in the chat so anybody who's interested can play along, and then I will share my screen.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is someone at quantum computing at Davis has designed, right? Someone built this, or did you do it? Or
so it was a joint effort from the hackathon. We divided up into teams and designed these different games. So this is one of them. This is the one I just posted in the chat. This is Quangry Cats, again meant to really teach the fundamentals of the uncertainty principle, divided up into different levels. Let's play level 1. So level 1 here, you can just control the arrow keys just like regular Angry Birds as you used to it. Now this was a completely classical version. However, as you go into level 2, you now get this quantum cat. So you see these uncertainties where you have your position window as well as your angle at which it's going to fire. And based on which one you pinpoint, whether it's your position or your angle, your probability will change. And so it is up to you to decide which one you'd like to know best. So let's say we want to really be sure on our angle, but our positioning could be off. And then hitting space will fire. Of course, you can get into some quantum tunneling every now and then in the game, as you just saw, but that's the rough idea of it. So that is Quangry Cats, and playable under this link within the browser. And then let me showcase blackjack. So again, blackjack here is a classical dealer where the so for anybody not familiar with blackjack, it is a game of 21. You add up the numbers on your cards and try to get as close to 21 as possible, but not over. And the goal of the game is to beat the dealer. So here the dealer has a 7 and a 5, meaning a sum of 12, while the player here has a choice. They have 2 cards that are in superposition, one of 10 and 8 and another one of 10 and 10. So it's your choice now whether you'd like to collapse this superposition and be sure whether you have a 10 or an 8, or whether you'd like to entangle if you like your options. So entangling meaning that you cross-reference the upper and the lower 2, meaning that you are for sure going to get either 20 or 18. So I'll collapse here. It turns out that we get the 10, so we are for sure going to be at 20. That's a great hand. So we'll stand, and yeah, the dealer draws and loses. That wasn't as exciting. Let me try to get something better. Here we go. Okay, so 10 and 2, the dealer's at 12, and the player now is at 3 or 10 in a superposition, and 5 or 9 in a superposition, meaning that we either get an 8 if we were to entangle, or a 19. So just to showcase it, let me entangle, and we'll hit a new card, assuming that we're going to get this 8, which is now at 7 and ace. So this is actually excellent because this can also count as 1. So I'd like to entangle again, and I'll stand here, meaning I'll either get a 15 or a 20. So you can see how you're able to leverage through superposition and entanglement the rules of the game and get closer and closer to actually beating the game. As we know, blackjack is a game that's favored towards the dealer, and so here we're sort of able to tweak the rules. Don't take this game to Vegas. So we'll stand, and yeah, we'll see that we win. Again, this game's playable on GitHub, and the other one is online.
Cool, yeah. Good stuff, yeah. Yeah, I had a question. So I looked at your LinkedIn and I saw that you went from a president role at QC at Davis to a more advisor role now. I assume because you're starting to work at the laboratory and stuff like that. But what is QC Davis's future plans? What are you guys looking to do going forward? Are you looking to expand this gaming aspect, or yeah, what's going on?
Excellent question. Yeah. So through this initial hackathon and initial development of these games, our first thought was, okay, as the club progresses and people get more and more take on more and more expert roles, it's really up to these games to get everybody who's coming in up to speed, and for them to have continually have a low entry into this field. So that's what we really like to achieve. However, the focus now, with amazing people who are now taking on the role of president, and they're doing an amazing job, is to go towards high schoolers. So to lower it even more for people who have never taken a college physics course before, to be able to get a grasp for these quantum computing aspects, be it late seniors who are already interested in college, or even maybe freshmen who are only really starting to see what they're enjoying, and for quantum computing to become accessible to really everyone. So that is the main focus going forward for the organization right now.
Cool, yeah, sounds solid. Yeah, I feel like high schoolers would definitely dig playing video games for sure. Yeah, good stuff. Did anyone have any other questions for Tim, or
Yeah, there is a question.
sure, Tamar, go ahead.
Always questions.
Yeah,
So the thing is, can I look at writing algorithms as a game? In other words, I can do a first iteration of writing algorithm, and it's so-so, but the game may educate me and correct me, guide me to a better algorithm, a more compact, more concise, more accurate.
That's a really good idea, and I think this is a really relevant question for especially the announcements done today by IBM. If you look into it, they are now going into what they call Qiskit patterns, and these patterns are sort of a toolbox for you to use to break up any quantum algorithm into 4 steps: mapping, it's optimizing, executing, and post-processing. And so based on these 4, they've showed that the depth of algorithms can be reduced, among other things. So I'm confident that gamification can be used with that as well, especially as these Qiskit patterns, as they call them, are meant for people outside of serious quantum development, to access these tools. And so I think gamification can be a great tool there as well, to sort of gain more expertise and to put together these building blocks of what Qiskit patterns is.
How about learning as a kid, learning by mimicking, observing, collecting observations, and learning as in the modern times, reinforcement learning, all via games, gamification?
Yeah, I believe that would be a really good approach as well. Yeah, I think you have many incredible ideas on different games that we could implement. And yeah, I think you're definitely seeing the potential behind gamification, especially for younger adults to get into this field. But I completely agree with you. I think that would be a great approach.
Not to sound too boring and recursive, can I devise a general game that will be a template to write exciting games?
Yes and no. So I believe that every game is focused on a specific principle within quantum computing that we are meaning to teach. There's really two sides of the story, right? We could take a completely classical game and make it quantum in a sense through something like superposition teachings or entanglement teachings. Or we could take a game that uses a quantum backend, like you were describing earlier, right? So actually getting our probabilities, be it a random number or something. I think your ideas would be much better than mine, to then design these games. So I think it's twofold. I think you'd have to definitely choose on number one, the quantum computing principle, and number two, your direction in how you want to make a quantum. Do you want to teach these principles through their apparent meaning? So teaching superposition, teaching entanglement, or do you want to use quantum computing and its advantages within your game for an enhanced gameplay?
Okay. There is more to it, but I want other people to talk because
Yeah, there's just a quick question in the chat. Somebody asked, what programming language did you use to program the quantum games?
Python. So we looked into what we wanted to teach everyone involved, and like the survey that I introduced, if you look into there, but also surveys over the past years have shown that Python is by far the most popular language in quantum computing SDKs. In addition to that, Qiskit, which is by far the most popular SDK, I believe it's 68% of users use Qiskit, is also based on Python. And so we really chose Python to teach quantum in the process of programming these games.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense there. Yeah. Cool. That is all the questions. Well, it was a pretty quick topic. So that is all.
Can I ask a question there?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm not very familiar with these quantum computer games. I'm just wondering the level of unpredictability. Is it possible to devise a computer game which is almost unpredictable, the outcome? You as a developer, even you as a developer cannot predict the outcome.
Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful idea. That would be fun for everyone involved. I'd love to do some brainstorming about how that could be, or if anybody else in the call right now has an idea. But yeah, I think that's definitely possible and definitely great. Sort of yeah.
Although it's possible in the sense that a few minutes ago you mentioned about the quantum random numbers. So with random numbers, we are trying to some extent to introduce higher level of unpredictability, because current classical random numbers are not real random numbers, they are sealed random numbers. So theoretically, the quantum random numbers might be truly random. If that is the case, then possibly developing a quantum computer program, a game which is associated with the randomness, perhaps that could be very highly unpredictable.
I agree, and definitely, like I said, I don't have an idea right now of how that could be possible. Simply because I believe that your action based on that random number that you get would have to incorporate some sort of predictability. But I'm very open to brainstorm more about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jordan, you had your hand up there.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Tim. I'm Jordan. I'm at CSUN, and my question is there anyone at UC Davis that someone here at CSUN can talk to about setting up like a quantum club or student group? There's things going on here as well. We have a NASA JPL autonomous research lab on our campus that a lot of stuff's going on, as well as we have faculty who are working with the National Science Foundation that got approvals, and they're now training everybody with Nautilus, and we have access to that. So there's good stuff going on. And the next step is adding something like this. So is there anyone you can recommend?
Absolutely. Let me put my email address in the chat, and if you send me a follow-up email, I'm happy to introduce you to the corresponding people at Davis.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, Tim's emails in the chat. I don't know if you guys are also seeing Kevin and Anthony's comments as well. Make sure you take a look. Okay, great. Any other questions?
Well, one thing is, for everybody that hasn't got into, quantum machine learning or even further into your Qiskit or Penguin journeys, we're still looking at simulators, for the next several years. There's a host of problems just with all quantum hardware that basically, if you want to do machine learning, it's practically impossible. And especially if it's like continuously updating that type of stuff. But most of us are still training on simulators and hardware. Like I said, if you want a big problem that you can find, that's specific to, this particular quantum computer can do, you probably can find, but it's not going to be widespread, and it's not going to be, costly or cost efficient. It's going to be hard to be available. But if machine learning is the main approach with it, which it is, we're still looking at like GPU quantum simulators for many years out. So as far, the news today is kind of like it was coming, because they announced, I think last year, that they were going to start doing this modular stuff. But the issue with noise, decoherence, cost, availability is still there, and they're not, readily available to do ML workflows like QML/Kimmel is. So, it's hard to think like, you just need to get on this new hardware, but I don't see that point anytime in the next few years as it being like your killer application that everybody else can use and implement, based on your algorithms on hardware, on QPUs.
I agree, and by no means did I mean to say that our current educational system is not proper to prepare, because just like you say, these are huge research topics that we need to continue digging into and to continue to get better at them, and we can't just jump at applications right now. But I do say that there's a point to be made for people who are not necessarily wanting to go and do a master's or a PhD to still gain access to this field and to still get a job at it. And I believe that, there's also a place for high schools and undergraduate students to have access to it. And so I agree that research needs to continue for sure, but there need to be additional ways along with the traditional coursework route for people to gain access to it.
Exactly. Yeah, someone just asked a question in the chat. Can quantum annealing be used for developing games, or is it more suited only for quantum gates?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. We haven't worked with it. It was not part of our hackathon. But if you have some good ideas, let me know, Felix.
Yeah, make sure to let him know. Yeah, great. Cool. Did anybody else want to chime in or anything they wanted to add?
Well, intuitively, the answer should be yes to that previous question, because annealing is always opening more possibilities. And there is, I think it's the famous one, the famous quantum computing company is using annealing. So why say no to something that already happening?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Joe, you had your hand up. Did you?
Yeah, okay. Well, my question is more toward the selection of the quantum hardware, IonQ, other vendors and things like that. So the question would be from a performance standpoint and looking at what you're doing with your games, what platform have you seen in your research is leaning toward being the better suited platform or strategy
So
for your
we,
games?
yeah, that's a great question. And so based on the games we've created, we have strongly decided to go for explaining quantum computing principles, but with a classical algorithm. So all these games that we created, right? The Python program that we wrote in order to play blackjack is completely classical. So there's no actual quantum hardware involved. However, there is that end that you said to it where we can use quantum computing hardware in order to leverage that in our gameplay. And we talked about random number generators, for example. Since we are using that educational aspect of developing these games and running it on Qiskit, etc., it was near to us to just use the superconducting environment that IBM Quantum offers. But yeah, I think, yeah, it'd be interesting to look into others as well.
Well, follow up, when you were talking about randomness, and that's a very good idea. The Quintinium, of course, provides that at origin. In other words, they can pop that down to a hardware strategy at source of data gathering, or what I mean, IoT or IoT or whatever, and edge technology. The thing that I looked at is when you were talking about the randomness and the number. And of course, I think Quintinium might be a good vendor to look at that. I have to make sure that it's pure random, and that part I don't know. Does anyone know if Quintinium and their randomness strategy is what level? If it is pure or what? That's the question.
Is your question towards the general concept of random number generators within the quantum computing field, or
the idea? Well, the question came up in the conversation about is it true random? And I think that was my point. Is it true random? Because I think it was a very good question. And design, it can make a big difference on certain things, whether it's, DOD and stuff like that. I mean, long story short, that was the question. Is it really true randomness? I know that's a major strategy they have for their quantum, and their quantum hardware is to produce a true random environment. At least I think that's what it is. They use a Honeywell, right? So make a long story short, what does anybody know if that is true randomness? And have they seen a true randomness engine, quantum engine, for example, out there that is able to do the randomness numbers and the level we're talking about?
I'm aware of
Probably
some
not.
great. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll say I'm probably not explaining it the right way, but the idea was from the further discussion we had. But go ahead.
And I just wanted to say that I'm aware of very some great tutorials within the Qiskit textbook that's found online to generate truly random numbers, like you were saying. If you're looking more into the algorithmic development of things behind it, I hope I'm getting your question.
Yeah, I think the second part you just got it, because I'm looking at developing algorithms in that layer as a quantum classical bridge. And it's something we've been thinking about trying to do. But yes, the second part of what you just said is kind of like where I'm focused on. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you send me a follow-up email, I'm happy to send you some resources that there are to go further into it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Of course.
Great. Is that all the questions? Just very a lot of different questions coming in. And I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to wrap it up. Okay, sounds good. All right. Yeah, thank you everyone for the participation. Thank you, Tim, for speaking on the topic of using games to explain, quantum computing for, and lower the barrier of entry, for high school students and undergraduates to enter the program. Yeah, but interesting. Great discussion there. Just a quick update on my end. The next meetup is actually, we're switching up. It's not going to be quantum computing related, it's going to be AI related. The topic is cognitive AI agents, what's beyond generative AI. That's January 13th, and I will be moderating it again. 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. The regular time. This was unique because it's a Monday night at 6. Did not expect that, but here we are. Other than that, that's the updates I had on my end. Helen, did you have anything on the Washington side, or?
Thank you for coming.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming as well. Tim, great to meet you. Really cool project that you've been doing at school, and interested to see where you end up in the industry, because your career is just starting soon. So excited to see where you go, and if that's all I had, and everybody else, enjoy your Monday night and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Bye, everyone.